The Ontario Energy Board supports keeping the local generating station. Striking Delico workers vote for a new deal. And the inquest begins into the death of a young construction worker. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Northwest Energy Task Force has won another battle in its effort to keep the Thunder Bay generating station open. The Ontario Energy Board issued a decision which reinforces the need for the coal plant. The OEB has agreed with another provincial energy agency that the station's removal from service would have an unacceptable impact. Dennis Ward has more.
The Common Voice Northwest Energy Task Force sees this latest decision as a win for its calls to have the coal plant converted to natural gas. The Ontario Energy Board has confirmed the position of the Integrated Electrical System Operator. Both agencies believe the local generating station is essential for energy reliability for the region. The OEB has ordered the IESO to enter into a contract for this year that ensures 1 unit of the power plant is available to meet our energy needs.
We see that as confirmation of everything we've been saying over the last number of months, that this plant is essential for Northwestern Ontario. And it's just another reason why the government needs to move forward to reinstate the conversion to natural gas sooner rather than later.
The Energy Task Force has wasted no time and sent this latest decision to local Liberal MPPs Bill Morrow and Michael Gravel, and they are the ones who will have to pressure the Minister of Energy.
You now have 2 out of 3 agencies that are saying this plant is needed. You need to step up to the plate and make the right decision and announce the conversion.
Angus himself had previously set a deadline for the end of June for that announcement. He remains optimistic this latest news will reinforce the need for this plant to remain operational past the end of coal usage in 2014. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
After weeks on the picket lines, unionized employees with Delico and Nishnavik Family Services will be heading back to work. The final contract vote was held today, and after being tallied, over 80% say yes to the new agreement. But the union says there's still a lot of work to be done. Nate Jones reports.
The last of Delico's unionized employees in the district cast their ballots, bringing strike action that would have gone into its 3rd week to a halt. Over 200 CEP members showed up from Thunder Bay and Armstrong for the final meeting to clarify the new contract before casting their votes. The new agreement says that employees were to return to work August 6th, but that date has been changed now to this Wednesday. Since the strike began, the union was raising concerns about the unmanageable workloads for social workers at the organization. A new letter of understanding will form a committee of both union representatives and Delico management to address the issue.
It's a huge project. It's you're going to have to look at every angle and everything that impacts workload. And then once that's identified, then you're going to have to wrestle with how do we fix it now? How do we change it? And we're really looking forward to working with, again, all decision-making levels of Delico.
On top of that, both parties will be taking part in the Ministry of Labor's Interactive Solutions program to help mend a somewhat broken relationship.
And they're going to come in, and we're going to do this very soon, to help with the relationship between Delico management and the union. So we're looking forward to that. I really think everyone believes that we need help with communication between management and the union.
The workers will receive a $500 signing bonus along with a 2% wage increase in 2013 and 2014. Mental health employees will get a 2.5% wage increase. As well, all employees working on-call shifts will be paid their regular wage now for all direct contact with their clients. The new 3-year contract, which dates back to April of last year, will expire in March of 2015. But the union expects to be back at the bargaining table in a little over a year to address other issues. Delico management say they are pleased the collective agreement was ratified and they hope to resume all services as soon as possible. Nate Jones, TBT News.
The coroner's inquest into the June 2011 death of a bridge construction worker began today. 24-year-old Gustavo Argueta of Thunder Bay was killed while he was working on the new 4-lane bridge over the Mackenzie River. Tara Allaire reports.
Gustavo Argueta died after the Genie S65 boom lift he'd been operating at the Mackenzie River Bridge construction site tipped over. Today, legal counsel to the coroner, Dan Mitchell, called 13 witnesses to testify.
We will be calling evidence with respect to the operation of this machine, as well as the circumstances that preceded the accident that took place. Hopefully the jury will come back with not only the conclusions to the questions they have to answer, but recommendations that will prevent similar tragedies like this from occurring.
Police officers, first responders, and co-workers provided photo evidence and first-hand accounts of the accident. Mechanic Tim Ebert testified that the Genie S65 was in excellent condition when it was rented to Terra North Construction for the project. It comes with an alarm that flashes and beeps when the machine is on a slope with an angle greater than 4.5 degrees. After the incident, Ebert found the machine had spray foam in the alarm and the alarm's wires were disconnected. He added the machine should never have been used at that location in the first place. The inquest is scheduled to continue until Friday. The 5-member jury will visit the rental company and Mackenzie River Bridge site on Tuesday. Mitchell says industrial accidents like this typically result in a coroner's inquest.
Whether it's a mining accident or another fatality that takes place in the course of construction or other industrial activities. Again, it's designed to prevent further or future incidents like this taking place and to protect workers.
Tara Allaire, TBT News.
This year's budget overruns and possible savings will be up for discussion at City Hall tonight. Midway through the year, city staff are projecting a budget shortfall of $2.5 million. Superior North EMS, Legal Services, and the Gulf Division are all running a deficit at this point. The largest negative variance is being attributed to a winter that just seemed to drag on. Snow removal and road maintenance ran up an additional $1.4 million in costs. The city plans to dip into a reserve fund to offset the shortfall. On a more positive note, the city manager will update council on more than $1 million in savings fund throughout the corporation so far this year. Some big changes to bingo in the city are also on the agenda. Ontario Lottery and Gaming has worked out a new deal with Thunder Bay Community Bingo to create a new electronic gaming centre. A steady decline in traditional players are threatening the operation. It's believed incorporating electronic games could renew interest and attract new players. Some downtown businesses are hoping to get a section of Red River Road turned into a one-way street. The idea is still in its early stages, but most retailers and hospitality businesses in the area are on board with the concept. The proposal would see Red River Road become a one-way street between Court and Cumberland streets. There would be angled parking on one side of the road, and sidewalks in the area would be extended to give businesses more room. The plan would also allow for patios and green space along that section of Red River. Derek Lakinen from the Foundry Pub says other alternatives could see the one-way street run from Court Street to Cumberland or St. Paul Streets instead. The group behind the proposal is open to suggestions, and right now they're just looking for public and business feedback.
We're hoping that once we have a more concrete plan of what we sort of think, we can go to the Waterfront BIA and possibly they might get on board with us as well, and then hopefully take it to City Hall.
So far, the idea has garnered a lot of support from residents. Red River Ward Councillor Brian McKinnon says he thinks the idea is worth looking at, but that everyone in the area would have to be consulted and accommodated if the plan were to move ahead. For the past 2 years, the city's tourism strategy has looked outside of the box when it comes to promoting what Thunder Bay has to offer. The tourist division has reached not only regionally but internationally to bring people to experience Lake Superior and various attractions spread across Thunder Bay. Courtney Rutherford reports.
Although the summer may feel like it's starting to cool off, that's not the case when it comes to Thunder Bay's tourism market. Although City Manager Paul Pepe says they took a small hit with the May snow, the visitor center at the Terry Fox Monument has reported a 12% increase in traffic in the past couple of months.
The wet weather with the snow that we had in early May, and I think we saw people adjusting their travel plans, and so I think June is partly that, and it's encouraging. It means that people didn't cancel their plans outright; they just postponed them. So the travel motivation, the travel demand was still there, and I think that definitely has had an effect on the June numbers at Terry Fox. There's no doubt about it.
Another growing market is the corporate traveler and conventions being held in the city. Pepe says that more convention planners are looking north, and visitors are starting to fly to the city rather than staying in the Greater Toronto area. He says with the increased cost of airfare, Thunder Bay is cheaper to travel to and it offers nature right outside of the convention, something that isn't attainable in many other cities.
We're really seeing some interesting trends, and we're seeing sort of more unique conventions. We're seeing more unique corporate groups that are looking to Thunder Bay for a unique, different destination. And certainly our strategy over the last year has really capitalized on the fact that we are a different, unique location for a conference. And so for conference planners that are getting a little tired of the same old, windowless square meeting rooms in the Southern Ontario market, we can really offer a very, very unique alternative.
Pepe says the city of Thunder Bay usually sees about 500 to 600,000 visitors each year. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
The Ring of Fire mining development could soon have a new name. Chief from the 9 Matawa communities are holding their annual general meeting in Long Lake 58 First Nation this week. And as one of the chiefs tells us, they're hoping to release their selection of a new name for the entire development. Jordan Milani has more.
Anything we do, we got to have a name.
And Chief Alan Togijic of Long Lake 58 wants the name of the Ring of Fire project to mean something to his community. The 9 Matawa chiefs will meet next week to narrow down their suggested name for the development that will eventually impact each of their communities. And while many are unsure of how official the title Ring of Fire actually is, the term is more commonly used to describe an area in the Pacific Ocean where a large number of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur. Togijic says it's time the name has some significance.
Now we got to come back to Earth, back to our communities. There's always a name. They must have a name, what they used to call the people up north. And even in Bay people call them Bigtago Nishnabik or Arakan Nishnabik. So we got to come up with a name that we will be able to identify and be able to say it's ours.
Minister of Northern Development and Mines, Michael Gravel, says he would support being involved in those discussions.
We recognize how important it is that we have those kinds of discussions prior to the more formal negotiations beginning. So we want to be able to obviously position it so that there is not just a comfort with the future opportunities, but that indeed the value added benefits that need to be seen in those communities go forward.
The municipality of Greenstone has been using the term Ring of Fire to advertise on municipal logos and has even applied to the province to secure the name. Greenstone Mayor Ron Beaulieu says they've been in support of their neighboring First Nations throughout the negotiation process, and this time is no different.
If it's going to make our First Nations feel that it's more part of them by changing the name, hey, I mean that's I have no problem with that. All I can say is that we as a municipality in Greenstone, we live in an area where we're surrounded with our First Nations, the Matawa First Nations, and we want to work together to the benefit of First Nations and also of the community surrounding.
Jordan Milani, TBT News.
A local solvent abuse treatment center has doubled its waiting list this year. Officials at the Kanachihee Center on D Street say new patients are added to the list weekly. Roughly 41 people are on the waiting list for one of the center's 12 beds this year. That's up from an average of 18 or 19 people last year. The center is one of the only specialized treatment centers in the country for people recovering from solvent abuse. More people are using phase 2 of the center this year than they were in previous years. Jessica Wilhelm from Kanachihee calls it a good news, bad news story.
Well, it's a pro and con. I'm very happy that a lot of our guys want to utilize the phase 2. We're pretty impressed with it. We have a client who has successfully completed his 2 years. He'll be leaving shortly, and he's going to reside in Thunder Bay. So we're really proud of those accomplishments because he's come a very long way. But unfortunately, the people that really need to come here and it's kind of emergency basis, it's harder for them to get a bed.
When people are brought to the center, they are put in an emergency phase 1 treatment process for solvent abuse, which can take anywhere from 17 weeks to 4 months. Around 60% of patients currently are in phase 2 of the program dealing with long-term treatment. That phase can take up to 2 years to complete. Wait times for patients currently sit at 2 to 8 weeks. Wilhelm says that means people looking for help can often be jailed, change their minds, or attempt suicide before ever being accepted into the program. The stretch of the new 4-laning on Highway 1117 that was opened on Friday is great for drivers, but it's not so good for some businesses on the new portion of Lakeshore Drive. John D'Angelo is the manager of Crystal Beach Variety. He's noticed a big drop in traffic since the change was made last week. Making matters worse is that there's only one way to get onto Lakeshore Drive between Mackenzie Heights Road and Birch Beach Road. 2 more access points are supposed to be finished in the next 2 weeks, but D'Angelo is a little worried and says the difference over the past few days was obvious.
Since then, we've noticed a much quieter road. No transport trucks, but also no U-Hauls or RVs stopping in for gas. Nobody coming in with their camper trailers and boats heading off to the lake.
Last weekend was also the first time the store was able to sell alcohol, and D'Angelo calls that a small saving grace. He's also been told the entire stretch of Lakeshore Drive is scheduled to be completed by the end of August.
Well, turning to weather, Fiona, we've seen it before and no doubt we'll see it again. It was a rather unseasonably cold weekend. Lo and behold, another work week and it's warming up.
Yep, finally seeing some sunshine after a couple days that were pretty gray. In fact, if we take a look what happened, we had a fair amount of sunshine in the late morning, early afternoon. We've just now had a little bit of cloud cover starting to move in, and that's going to cause things to be partly cloudy tonight. But that's a good thing. In the evening, that holds in the heat that we have accumulated, and we accumulated quite a bit. After a high of 15 yesterday, we hit a high of 24, and with the Humidex, it actually felt like 27. So it was a gorgeous warm-up and a great start to the week with winds fairly light from the southwest up to 19 kilometers per hour. But if we take a look at what's going on across the region, you can see the clouds in the west. 22 seems to be a fairly magic number across the region. Red Lake a touch warmer at 23, 24 in Armstrong. Marathon, well, with a little bit of a wind off the lake, it feels a little cooler at 18, and Sault Ste. Marie is seeing 17 Celsius at this time, despite the sunshine. But Thunder Bay tonight, a low of 7, partly cloudy skies, and winds very light, starting out at 16, tapering off to about 8 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, although it was such a beautiful start to the week, if you think that's the end of the rain, well, not quite. We have some instability over the region tomorrow, and what that's going to do is give us a little mix of everything: sun, cloud, and a risk of a shower or possibly even a thunderstorm in the area. And in Thunder Bay, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a huge system moving through, but there is a good possibility that there will be rain in the city limits at least. So we're keeping an eye on what's developing behind it. We've got some cooler temperatures from the northwest, from the southwest, some strong thunderstorms. Not necessarily the greatest options to have over the next few days, but I'll have more details on what we can plan for and see what we can salvage out of our summer.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, a bus crash killed nearly 40 people in Italy. We have that story and more for you coming up as your Monday News Hour continues.
Rescue workers worked frantically, using cranes and electric saws to cut through the twisted metal, hoping to find survivors among the many dead.
In Italy, a national day of mourning has been declared after 38 people were killed in a bus crash near the southern city of Naples. 10 others remain in hospital in critical condition after the bus plunged off the highway bridge into a ravine. Megan Williams reports.
A school opened midsummer not to welcome life, but to temporarily shelter death. Just outside the small southern Italian town of Monteforte Irpino, one of the worst road accidents in Italian history took place early this morning. Witnesses say the bus rounded a bend in the highway where traffic had slowed, scraped along a concrete wall, then ran into several cars before plunging 30 meters into a ravine. The passengers, elderly, families, and children had been on a 3-day spa holiday and pilgrimage to the shrine of the popular Italian saint Padre Pio. On their way home to the town of Pozzuoli outside Naples, where most of them were from. Rescue workers worked frantically, using cranes and electric saws to cut through the twisted metal, hoping to find survivors among the many dead. This Red Cross worker says the bodies will be moved to Pozzuoli, where the funerals will be held tomorrow. The cause of the crash is still unknown, but police say car parts were found a kilometer before the accident site, suggesting a mechanical error may be behind the crash. In the meantime, this prosecutor from the area says a full inquest has been launched. That will look at all factors that may have contributed to the crash, including an autopsy of the driver, who died along with the 37 others. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Pope Francis spent last week in Brazil meeting with millions of young Catholics from around the world. But it's what he said on the plane ride home that has people, especially in the gay community, talking. Catherine Cullen has the story.
At times, funny, and certainly willing to talk, Pope Francis spent well over an hour answering journalists' questions. His comments on the sexual orientation of priests are attracting the most attention.
Se una persona è gay e cerca il Signore e ha buona volontà, ma chi sono io per giudicarla?
He also told reporters it was important not to discriminate against or marginalize gay people. Welcome words in the gay and lesbian community.
Wow, finally a pope that kind of acknowledged that there are gay people around the world, LGBT people, and kind of show some openness to the reality of the LGBT community, which is a first ever.
Those in the church say this isn't a new message, that Pope Francis is consistent with his predecessors.
The church has always made a distinction between acts and the person itself, and the person is a son of God or a daughter of God, and is loved by Christ, and none of them, is to be rejected. But I think perhaps the difference with Francis is just the question of tone.
That tone for Father Nikolai is one of openness, something he says Pope Francis showed on his recent trip to Brazil.
Openness is also something he showed by answering so many journalists' questions. But that openness has its limits. Pope Francis also told reporters that women should play a larger role in the church, but not, he said, as priests. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Montreal.
Police in Toronto shot and killed an 18-year-old over the weekend, and the amateur video of the incident has a lot of people talking. Today, that included the city's police chief, who acknowledged various concerns are being raised and said people had every right to feel that way. Ron Charles has the story.
The cell phone video is shocking and disturbing. 18-year-old Sami Yatim is alone, brandishing a knife on a Toronto streetcar after he ordered everyone off. Almost a dozen Toronto police officers are on the scene, yelling warnings. Then this. And then 6 seconds later, more shots. Police then performed CPR on the young man, but he was pronounced dead in hospital. Online, the video has created a firestorm of reaction and questions about why police used such deadly force. Ontario's independent police watchdog, the Special Investigations Unit, is probing the shooting. Toronto's police chief wouldn't answer questions today, but he promised the public will get answers soon.
I am very aware that the public is very concerned about this tragic event.
They have every right to be concerned. I recognize that there is a need for answers and that the public quite rightfully expects that the matter will be thoroughly investigated. I want to assure you all that this will be done.
Not much is known about why Sami Yatim ended up in the brief standoff. The recent high school graduate immigrated from Syria 5 years ago to live with his father. It's not known if he was suffering from a mental illness. Lawyer Anita Zaghetti has studied and written about the sometimes deadly interaction between police and people with mental illnesses.
The idea is to de-escalate. That means giving the individual experiencing emotional crisis time and space. And that means speaking in a way that reassures the person that you're there to help.
According to the head of Toronto's police union, the officer who fired the shots has been on the force for 6 years and is devastated by the incident. CBC News has learned he has been suspended with pay. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
Some amazing video out of New York. This terrifying landing last week was caught on video by one of the passengers inside. That's a Southwest Airlines jet as it skidded on the runway in LaGuardia last Monday. Several passengers were shaken up. 6 were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Investigators are trying to find out why the nose landing gear collapsed. One of the major retailers in this country is getting ready to buy a big shopping name in the U.S. The Hudson's Bay Company says it's ready to pay almost $3 billion to buy Saks Fifth Avenue. Howard Gould has more on what that can mean for shoppers.
Many Canadians know the Saks name, and many can't wait to see it move north.
I've bought quite a few brands from them before and always been impressed with the quality. It would be great to see them come up to Canada.
Richard Baker, the head of Hudson's Bay, has told analysts he plans to move quickly. That could mean 7 Saks stores in Canada. That could mean converting some Hudson's Bay stores to Saks. Speculation has already started about this one in downtown Toronto. But some wonder if there's room at the top end of the retail market for so many luxury stores. Canada has had a reputation as a country where retailers who aim lower have had more success. Elizabeth Evans, a professor who specializes in retail, says Hudson's Bay knows what it's doing.
Certainly Hudson's Bay has made it very clear that they want to become a dominant player in the fashion department store sector in North America and possibly globally as well.
Saks also has a line of discount stores called Saks Off Fifth. 24 of those may open in Canada too.
It's very exciting news for certainly Canadian consumers. Now the Canadian retail market is really hot, and I think we're playing with the big boys from the States, and everybody's got to up their game.
Saks had been struggling in the ultra-competitive U.S. market. Analysts expect joining forces with HBC, which also controls the Lord & Taylor chain in the U.S., should mean more buying power and more efficiencies on both sides of the border. Howard Gould, CBC News, Toronto.
In Japan, 1 person is dead and at least 3 are missing after flash floods and torrential rains hit the western part of the country. Hundreds of children at a summer camp had to be rescued by helicopter after roads collapsed, leaving them stranded. Rescue workers also raced to save hundreds of people in villages across the region. A month's worth of rain fell in half a day in some parts of the country. Here's Russian President Vladimir Putin catching a really big fish. A spokesperson says it was at least 20 kilograms, but many in Russia are a little skeptical. One blogger says the Kremlin probably weighs fish the way it counts votes. Another suggested the president probably took credit for a staffer's catch. The Kremlin insists Putin did catch the fish. Let's now take a look at the day's market activity. In Toronto, the TSX increased 21 points to 12,669. The Dow Jones dropped 37 points to 15,521. And the Nasdaq lost 14 points to 35.99. The Canadian dollar closed at $97.47 US, up 13/100. Gold is up just shy of $7 to $1,328 an ounce. Crude dipped 15 cents to $104 per barrel. Well, the Thunder Bay Chill are headed to the league semifinals.
Yeah, it's becoming old hat for these guys. Last year, not a great season. 2 years ago, they got to the semis. 5 years ago, they won the whole thing. And their semifinal opponent, Victoria, that they'll be going up against this weekend, have never been this far before. So everything's sort of pointing towards the Chill's direction. Well, it was a case of sweet revenge for your Thunder Bay Chill last night at Fort William Stadium as they avenged a first-round loss at the hands of London last year. Blanking the defending PDL champs, Matt Scooby has your highlights.
The Chill looking to get back to the PDL Final Four for the 4th time in 6 years, and another good crowd on hand at Fort William Stadium for the final yesterday, despite some sketchy weather. London with the first good chance. 9th minute, Aaron Boyd with the free kick from just over 20 yards out, but Chill keeper Stephen Patterson is there to punch it away. Move to the 27th minute, off the corner kick. Axel Schober gets his head on it, but it goes just wide. Chill come that close to getting on the board first. After Sergio Campano-Franco made it 1-0 in the 33rd minute, watch Paul Dillon step into one from 30 yards out. He fools Mark Haynes. What a strike from the second-year defender. His teammates on the sideline love it. Afterwards, gives the home crowd a big salute. It was 2-0 Chill at the half. 51st minute, London pressuring Jordan Iris with a chance. Schoberg blocks the first one, then Patterson there to make the save on the rebound before the ball is cleared away to safety. Chill respond 3 minutes later. Abraham Villan plays a great ball for Nolan Intermoya, who chips it past the keeper, but it doesn't quite curl enough, misses by inches. In the 64th, Campano-Franco checks up, then goes for goal. A floater that's over the head of Haynes, but it goes off the post. Move to the 84th minute, where the Chill put this one to bed. Villan plays it up. Sonny Omoreggi chases it down, heads it to himself in alone, and he sneaks it 5-hole as the Thunder Bay Chill are off to the PDL Championship with a 3-0 shutout of London. After the match, head coach Tony Calistro got dunked, but he also talked about getting that win over London.
The storyline's great, you know, Ontario champs, they beat us last year, they were PDL champs. It was all there, so it's, you know, obviously playing London was, you know, it was sweet victory for us since they knocked us out last year, and they're a good side. I mean, they're a strong side, and I thought, you know, we played well enough to beat them tonight.
You know, for 10 months I've been having that sour taste in my mouth thinking about how London knocked us off last year and they only had one chance, so for this year getting over them and getting over the Bucks was huge.
Yeah, it's just the feeling from losing last year. You know, you don't want to go back to that point. And it was heartbroken when time we realized that we weren't in the Final Four. So we decided this year we're going to fight for it. If we're going to lose, we're going to lose trying real hard.
The Chill are off to Austin, Texas for the PDL Championship. They'll play Victoria in the semifinals on Friday. Matt Scooby, TVT Sports.
Well, close to 200 athletes braved unseasonably cold weather at Boulevard Lake yesterday, taking part in the annual Thunder Bay Triathlon. Courtney Rutherford recaps.
It's an event that hasn't been held in Thunder Bay for the past 5 years, a competition that tests athletes in the areas of biking, swimming, and running. Bright and early, all 182 gathered together to prepare for their first challenge, the 750 or 1,500 meter swim. Director Daniel Kokinen said the course had to be modified due to the weather conditions.
It's a large factor, especially today. We had to do a quick, short course on this. We had to shorten the course. The water was just too cold. It wasn't really fun for the athletes, and we're starting to approach a point of it being almost unsafe.
Kokinen said the water was fine to swim in, but they wanted the athletes to feel comfortable in the water. Following the swim race, athletes ran to their bikes and began to change into some warmer gear. Then they rode either an 18 or 36-kilometer ride. And if that wasn't enough, the athletes then threw on their running shoes and went for a 5 or 10-kilometer run. Kokinen says the event has brought in a huge crowd of people, and he couldn't be happier.
It's a great feeling. It's a lot of work bringing it in. It's great to see it's actually flowing. I have people giving me the thumbs up. It's all working here. It's a great job of getting this together.
24-year-old Giles LeBoeuf from Marathon came in first with a time of 1 hour and 3 minutes. He says there were a number of challenges he had to overcome throughout the courses.
This is the coldest triathlon I've ever experienced, by far. The water went down in temperature, so coming out of the water, I noticed my legs were numb, so I can push really hard on the bike. And that numbness lasted right through the run, so I just gave it my all.
As for other finishers, Moira Haggerty was the first woman to cross the finish line for the short course with a time of 1:11.17. As for the long course, Jonathan Balabuck and Kayla Kielman came on top with times of 1:50 and 2:20. Courtney Rutherford, TBT Sports.
Well, the Border Cats have the night off before resuming their two-game series in Wausau with the Woodchucks. Tomorrow night, the Cats' record fell to 5-17 after losing 4-2 to Wisconsin on Sunday. Two Cats infielders, Kyle Hahn and Philip Lyons, will take part in the Big League Dream Showcase in Madison, Wisconsin tonight. The two players and Cats manager Dan Holcomb talked about being the duo that was selected by Major League Scouts.
It feels good to know that some people are watching us all the time and they notice our talents. And for us to go out there and kind of display our talents for somebody who's that high up in Major League Baseball is going to be pretty awesome. Well, I've played pretty well, I guess. I've shown my talents pretty well, I guess, in a short period of time. But it's just, like I said before, it's just having those people watch us is pretty big, and obviously they've noticed.
It means a lot. I mean, it's a great honor to be selected like that. It's a prestigious thing. I know it's the first year, but it's going to be exciting and fun. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some jitters at first, but I mean, I think it's going to be fun. All you can do is go out there and have fun and play your best.
I mean, that's two very talented guys, two guys that have come out and played hard every single day. I mean, you know, Kyle, to be a freshman, to be named to that's pretty nice. You know, to be able to be recognized for, you know, his work this summer, and, you know, Phil, a two-year guy here. I mean, he's done nothing but produce for us. I mean, we've seen it here on this homestand with the 2 home runs and a couple other hits, and also, you know, with the stolen bases. I think, you know, he led the team last year. He's going to be close again this year. So it's nice to see those guys be able to go down and, you know, show off those skills that they've showed all season in front of some scouts and get a chance to, you know, possibly see somebody see them.
On the links, Brandt Snedeker and his Canadian caddy captured the Canadian Open Golf Tournament in Oakville, Ontario by a smooth 3 shots. Brantford's David Hearn was the top Canadian, finishing 12 strokes back. We get more in this report.
Brandt Snedeker was the 3rd round leader, and he wasted no time setting the pace on Sunday. Here on the 10th, sticks his 2nd shot within 3 feet. He would birdie the hole and extend his lead to 16 under. Snedeker in a bit of trouble on the par 3 12. His tee shot ending up in a log. After punching out, he hits a beauty chip to within a few inches. Bogey drops him to 15 under. Meanwhile, Dustin Johnson made a charge. Here on the par 5 16th, an amazing 2nd shot to 10 feet. He would miss the eagle, but the birdie would move him into a tie with Snedeker at 15 under. However, things fell apart for Johnson on the 17th. His tee shot a mile right out of bounds. Then on the same hole, Johnson can't get out of the bunker. It hits the lip. DJ would triple bogey the hole and fall out of contention. Snedeker on his way to his 2nd victory of the year. Here on 18, taps in for par, finishes at 16 under, shooting 70 in the final round.
With Brandt Snedeker, the 2013 Canadian Open champion, and Brandt, you never trailed in the final round. Did you at any point feel like maybe you had to step on the gas a little?
You know, you're always trying to. You know, you feel like when you hit good shots out there and you got birdie putts, you need to make them, but you never know what's going to happen. And I had a good putt on, a good look at 11, missed that, and then I made a bogey on 12, and I knew it was going to get interesting after that. So to play 1 par golf in from there with those tough holes into the wind coming down the stretch was a lot of fun, and you know, I was able to squeak one out here is you know, just a huge relief to me and a lot of fun, you know, over the last 6 holes with that pressure on me.
Well, the Blue Jays open a 10-game West Coast road trip tonight in Oakland against the American League West leading Athletics. Ismail Rogers starts for Toronto against A.J. Griffin. The Birds would wrap up a 10-game homestand against Houston Sunday. Oh, pick it up. Bottom of the 3rd inning. It's Double A Edwin Encarnacion with a sacrifice fly. That brings in Jose Reyes from 3rd. Top 4, the Astros even things up as former J. Brett Wallace swats a solo shot. It would stay that way until the 9th. That's when Colby Rasmus delivers with runners at 1st and 2nd. This chopper up the middle will find shallow center. Emilio Bonifacio will motor in from 2nd. It's a walk-off win for the Jays, 2-1. They've won 7 of their last 10. And Detroit has picked up reliever Jose Veras from Houston for minor league outfitter Danny Vasquez, and a player to be named later. In Atlanta, they've added former Blue Jays reliever Scott Downs from the Angels for a minor leaguer you've never heard of. So we might mention him on the late edition. That'll do it for sports.
All right, thanks, Randy. Well, it's kind of an odd night on television, on Thunder Bay Television, CKPR, and Global Thunder Bay, because we've got, let's see, Bigfoot, a bear, and a nudist colony. With more, here's your complete lineup on Teletalk.
Tonight we've got the green-eyed monster and other scary situations on Global Thunder Bay. Starting at 8 on Psych, Sean and Gus work with a documentary crew on the hunt for Bigfoot. Then at 9 on Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls, one team reaches their breaking point at a waterfall. And at 10 on Under the Dome, the townspeople fear that water and food are running out. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay tonight, mysteries abound and suspects are everywhere. First, at 8 p.m. on Murdoch Mysteries, William investigates a murder at a nudist community. And at 9, Aiden develops a relationship with a woman he rescues from a killer on Cracked. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Well, it's a good way to start off the week, Fiona. There is no storm watches or warnings across the country right now.
Yeah, it's very calm, almost eerily so. Makes you kind of worry about what Mother Nature has in mind for us. But even in Thunder Bay, it was a really nice start to the week. We topped out with a high of 24, and if you factor in the humidex, well, it felt like 27 at times under partly cloudy skies and with some light winds. If we take a look at what's going on across the country, you're right, not a lot of active weather to talk about, but some kind of cool temperatures in some locations. Now, Vancouver at 21 is under just a few clouds. Beautiful sunny day. They've got more ahead and expected to warm up as the week progresses. 22 in Prince George. Edmonton, though, 16, and thunderstorm just developing in the last hour or so. Calgary currently at 11, and that is not an error. That is 11 Celsius under cloudy skies. It's less than half of what the temperatures should be for this time of year. Things warm up, though, marginally as we head into southern Saskatchewan. Saskatoon's at 17 under mainly cloudy conditions. Partly cloudy in Regina at 21. And Winnipeg, a fair amount of cloud cover, but they're still enjoying 22 Celsius at this hour. Now, as we head into southern Ontario, Toronto is showing some cloud cover. They're currently at 22, but there is about a 60% chance of showers overnight tonight, and then things really improve again tomorrow. They've got lots of sunshine on the way for the second day of the work week. Ottawa and into the Montreal region is seeing a bit of a thunderstorm developing at this hour. They're at 17 Celsius. But for tomorrow, again, the sun is going to come back out and things are going to improve markedly. Quebec City currently at 23 under mainly cloudy skies, a few sunny breaks. And as we head into the Maritimes, well, 21 in Fredericton, 20 in Charlottetown, 20 in Halifax, and mainly cloudy in Charlottetown. Everywhere else, pretty gray. However, when you factor in the humidex, these areas are at about 27 is what it feels like in all three locations. So there's a lot of humidity in the Maritimes. St. John's currently at 15 Celsius, well below seasonal today, a good 10 degrees. Now, a high pressure center today brought some sunshine, but it kind of collapsed on itself. Tomorrow, we've got this front moving and it's going to push some precipitation over the Great Lakes by Wednesday, which is not good news if you thought you were finally going to get rid of that umbrella. As we take a look what's happening across the region tonight, most areas are actually going to see an improvement in temperatures, 13, 14. This is fairly seasonal or slightly above. And if you head a little bit further eastward, a little bit of a dip in the temperatures, but all in all, looking fairly clear, just partly cloudy skies tonight. However, by tomorrow, there's a possibility of a pop-up shower, a thunder shower, towards Fort Frances and up into the Red Lake area, although temperatures are still going to be gorgeous. Low 20s, so nice and warm, but not uncomfortable. Thunder Bay at this hour is at 22 under, well, we'll call it mostly cloudy. There are a few sunny breaks. But tonight, a cool low, 7 Celsius, partly cloudy skies, hopefully just enough to hold in some of that daytime heating we got today. And as we head into tomorrow, we'll start out at about 12 Celsius under partly cloudy skies. 18 by about noon and 20 by late in the afternoon. But again, there's that risk of a shower or thunder shower popping up in the Thunder Bay area. So we're not talking a huge system, but we could see very localized pockets of rain. 21 is going to be the high for tomorrow. Wednesday, pretty much a similar day as Tuesday, maybe a touch more cloud to start off with, a high of 23. By Thursday, we're at 24, and that's where we're going to stay until the end of the work week. Saturday, 22. So kind of a wet start to the week, but temperatures are definitely going to be an improvement over what you had to deal with this past weekend.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, if you've ever had an itchy back and you couldn't quite scratch it, we have a very unique way of fixing that problem to show you. At least it works for bears. Stay with us. Well, this video we're about to show you was captured by Alberta Parks over 2 months. Take a look. Wildlife cameras were installed as part of the research project throughout Kananaskis country, and it's not just bears taking part. There are deer and cougars, also other critters as well, captured on candid camera using that lovely tree as a backstrap. Pretty cute.
Oh, I love it when they're rolling around on their backs.
Yeah.
My
and there's
dog
more
does
than
that.
One. Yeah. We're going to recap our top story now. Well, it's good news for the local energy task force when it comes to the city's generating station. The Ontario Energy Board issued a decision saying that Thunder Bay does need the coal plant.
And the Thunder Bay Border Cats have the night off, but we will have some Border Cats news, plus the latest on the Thunder Bay Chill as they get ready for the PDL semifinals this weekend.
And a cool night ahead, a low of 7 under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud, and it'll be above 20 once again, but you might want to bring an umbrella to work. Could see some spotty showers.
And that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening.